This time we got a dual 1218 automatic turntable in for service. The complaint on this one is the automatic operation is not working. It will work if you pick up the tone arm manually and drop it on the record, but auto start and auto stop not working. Mechanism's gummed up. Let's fix it. So let's get the mechanism out of the base and we'll give it a good full service. First I'll loosen off the set screws so that I can lift the mechanism up. Gotta make sure that the cord comes out through the bottom. This is a Noresco branded unit. Noresco had the Canadian distribution rights for dual. So we just tilt the locks a bit sideways here and lift the transport up. Okay, I can put the table upside down. We'll just rest it. Got a motor here, and what's going to be wrong with this is the same thing that's wrong with all of these units, and that's going to be that the grease has dried up on the mechanism. So first we'll do an inspection, make sure that all the pieces are there. So this mechanism is worn, or shouldn't say worn, this mechanism is gummed up. We're going to have to take this apart and lubricate all of the mechanical pieces that are sticking, including the cam. We'll start with the main chassis. So first we're going to pop this E-clip off from here, so I can take apart the mechanism. And we're going to lift off the first lever. This one just lifts up, but it's gummed up. So take this one off. The one that's gummed up is this one down here. So the next is to remove this other E-clip. So this is the post that's completely gummed up, and the lubricant has basically turned to glue. We need to clean that up, clean up the inside of this bearing, and then re-lubricate it. I'm using 99% isopropyl alcohol to clean up the old grease from both the mounting post and from the bearing itself. This is where you set the record size. So I just have to adjust this so that the pointer corresponds to 12, 10, and 7-inch records. So there's 12, 10, and 7. I got to go a little bit over. So I'm just going to loosen the screw a bit and move this over just a bit so that the alignment is correct. Also need to clean out this bearing. So again, Q-tip soaked in alcohol. We'll clean out the dried grease in the lower bearing assembly. Alright, now we can see that the switch operates correctly. We'll put the E-clip back on and then lubricate the top part of the post and put the rest of the unit back together. So this E-clip just snaps on like that. And we'll put another bit of oil on top here to lubricate the top bearing. Bring this piece back into place. Drop it down and put the second E-clip on the top. That should make the mechanism operate when you turn on the switch. Let's turn the unit through its paces and make sure that things are working like this should work. I do want to turn it by hand. I got a guard on the pickup here, so. Oh, star pimple's okay. It looked a bit worn, but looks like it's working. If I put in a 7-inch record, start. Ten-inch record. And to stop it. Cueing arm is working. I do believe this unit is ready to go back together to be tested. Another part that does really need to be cleaned up on this is this little lever here tends to get gummed up, so we're going to clean off the grease from that and just relube that with some moly coat. So that's just done by wetting our Q-tip with alcohol to dissolve the old grease that's in here and get it out of this groove. You don't need much grease because too much grease in here will cause more problems. Next we'll plug the unit back in, and I'll plug my sound system into it. Gotta find my preamp input for my turntable. I can do this after I set the bass back in. Okay, let's play a record on this thing. The record I'm going to play is one that you guys probably have never ever seen before. It doesn't seem like that's down all the way, does it? We'll put this record on here. I will play this record for you guys in its entirety. You've never seen this record before. I don't think you've seen this record before. But let's try it out. It's a 7-inch record. I haven't even set the weight yet on this. See if this thing's going the correct speed. Looks to be a 7-inch record.
For over 30 years, Ampex has been the leader in the professional recording industry.
I only have one channel.
Ampex pioneered professional magnetic recording. Today, Ampex mastering tape is used around the world.
Make sure the head shell's connected properly.
Treble will occur.
That's a bit better.
Being the
Okay, I'll play this record for you guys in its entirety.
For over 30 years, Ampex has been the leader in the professional recording industry. Ampex pioneered professional magnetic recording. Today, Ampex mastering tape is used around the world for in-studio recording of every form of music from rock to classical. Because you share our interest in good sound reproduction, the Ampex Stereo Performance Evaluation Disc has been designed to help you check the major performance functions of your stereo system. Before we begin our series of tests, we will discuss the environment in which you do your listening. The room acoustics can have a great effect on the quality of sound reproduced by your speakers. Here are some ideas that may enhance your listening enjoyment. Firstly, a room may be either bright or dull. By bright, we mean that a room may be very sound reflective. Such a room usually has little or no carpeting, minimal drapes, and few chairs or furnishings that absorb sound. As a result, the treble end of the sound spectrum tends to be overemphasized. Exactly the opposite can happen in a room with many sound-absorbing surfaces. As a result, loss of treble will occur. The position of the speakers in the room can also affect the sound. Speakers that are low or sitting on the floor tend to emphasize the bass. If the two speakers are mounted in corners, they can tend to sound bass-heavy. If one speaker is in a corner while the other is against a flat wall, the speaker in the corner will sound out of balance with the other. Ideally, your listening room should be on the dull or sound-absorbing side. Your speakers should be 6 to 12 feet apart and mounted on or standing against a flat wall rather than in the corners of the room. Assuming that you do most of your listening while you are sitting, the speakers should be at ear level when you are seated, unless, of course, you have purchased floor speakers, in which case they have been designed to function in that position. In any stereo listening area, the ideal position is at a central point between the two speakers and at a distance from the speakers no greater than the distance by which they are separated. In other words, if your speakers are 6 feet apart, your ideal listening position is approximately 6 feet from the speakers. Naturally, the ideal listening situation is difficult to achieve, and you must keep in mind that you are at home, not in a recording studio, so compromises must be made. Try positioning the speakers for the best possible sound. Now that we are ready to begin our series of tests, we remind you that your needle and cartridge should be in good condition. Also, we recommend that you set the bass and treble controls at 0 or flat, and that you position the balance control in the center. Naturally, you'll also want to make sure that your amplifier is in the stereo mode. Test number 1, speaker connections. This test will determine whether you are hearing sound from your left and right speakers. At this time, you should be hearing my voice from the left speaker only. Left being the speaker to your left as you face the speaker system. Now we have switched to the right speaker. My voice should be as loud from the right speaker as it was from the left. Now back to stereo. If, as I spoke to you, the sound from the left and right speakers was reversed, simply interchange the connections at the amplifier. They should be clearly marked left and right. If you did not hear my voice from either the left or right speakers during the test, a deficiency exists in one of the channels. Check the connections at the speaker and the amplifier and repeat the test. If one of the channels is still not working, connect the speaker wire from the functioning speaker to the side that is not. If this does not work, the cause probably lies in the speaker itself, and you should return it to your dealer for examination. If it does work, the fault could be either the amplifier, the turntable to amplifier interconnect, or the turntable itself. A process of elimination similar to the one described for the speaker should be carried out in order to determine the location of the fault.
Okay, that was side 1.
Test number 2, speaker phasing. This second test is designed to ensure that your speakers are in phase, or in other words, that the speaker cones are moving in and out together in unison. For this test, position yourself centrally between the two speakers. Two tones will be presented. The first tone will be in phase, the second out of phase. If your speakers are properly connected, the first tone should be louder than the second. If your speakers are out of phase, the second tone will be louder. First, in phase. Now out of phase. If the second tone was louder, your speakers are out of phase. To correct this, simply reverse the connections at either one, but only one of the speakers. If you've been listening to your stereo with the speakers out of phase, you will now notice improved bass response and an enhanced stereo effect. Test number 3, balance, center, left, right. This test serves to balance your system's two channels for equal loudness relative to your listening position. A reference tone will be reproduced from both channels, then from the left channel only, and finally from the right channel only. Adjust the balance control for equal loudness from both speakers. As the tone is reproduced, you should get the effect of 3 positions: center, left, and finally right. Test number 4, frequency reproduction. Having now determined that your speakers are properly connected, we will do a series of tests to evaluate your system's ability to reproduce sounds of various frequencies. A reference tone of 1000 Hz will be heard between each of the test frequencies as we check the high frequency response at 5000 Hz, 10,000 Hz, then 12, 14, and 16,000 Hz. The test begins with the 1000 Hz reference tone, then moves up as described previously. Now we will test the low range response. Again, a 1000 Hz tone will be used for reference as we move down the range from 500 Hz to 100 Hz, then 80, 60, and finally 40 Hz. As you listened through the tests, you may have noticed that the very low frequencies have caused a sympathetic vibration or resonance in some objects around the room. For the sake of your listening pleasure, these vibrations should be eliminated. You may otherwise discover unwanted noises accompanying your favorite musician. We hope you have found this stereo performance evaluation disc helpful in gauging the performance of your stereo equipment. At best, though, your system's performance will be a measure of the quality of the product upon which the source material is recorded. Do as the professionals do. Record on Grandmaster tape by Ampex.
I do think the stylus probably got a bit dirty. Oh yeah. There's a bit of dirt on here. I'm just gonna send all the audio fools going absolutely batty because I used my finger to clean the stylus. Yeah, drive them crazy. This might sound a little better this time.
500 Hz to 100 Hz, then 80, 60, and...
I hear more rumble.
Now we will test the low range response.
I hear
15 and 16.
I hear more rumble than anything else.
16,000 Hz.
All right, so I'm going to record this record on my system, my better system. This turntable has a fair bit of rumble, as would be expected from one of these duals. they were certainly not the quietest of turntables ever made. How we balance the tone arm on one of these units is we set the indicator to 0 and just make sure that the tone arm is balanced, which is not. So we gotta adjust it. So we were actually a little bit heavy. So we just want to adjust it so that the arm appears to float. Now it's too light. Somewhere in here. Okay, that's about right, and then we'll set this to 2 grams, and then we set our cartridge, or set our anti-skate also to 2 grams. That's how you set up the weight on one of these units.
Test number 4, frequency reproduction.
Pretty close. Oh, look at that. Oops. The problem with these duals, they tend to drop the cartridges. So 33.29, we're blonde flutter is 0.18%. Our variance was minus 0.19 and plus 0.2. Was how well this one did. Plotting it on the graph, it's up and down, as you can see. Anyway, that's probably as well as this thing ever did when it was new. Because you know, they weren't at the time when these turntables were still being sold. We used to always tell people they were junk. When I was in the business, we always told people these things were junk, and we trashed so many of these turntables back in the 80s. But now they are back again. People like to collect them because they are a changer. This one's got the stacker on here, so you can play multiple records. Yeah, they perform okay. This one does not have the infamous 840 motor. This is a different motor on this one. The 840 that was the motor that would start at fast speed was typically found on the some of the other models of changers. And the problem with the 840 was it was originally a motor that was designed for 50 hertz. And on 50 hertz it ran fine, but on 60 hertz sometimes it would start fast. This one is a 60 hertz only motor, according to the sticker on the bottom. Or a motor designed for 60 hertz. I'll put the other spindle in, and we will check to make sure that it's going to drop the record as it's supposed to. Someone just cringed, I know, because of this thing dropping the record down a couple of inches. I just know it. I just made someone cringe. Anyway, this one's all fixed up. Gotta wait to remove the record. Also the 45 RPM adapter as well that can go on here. And if we want to lubricate the actual bearing itself, we can do that by popping out this is a C-clip. These ones here also had a tendency to go flying if you weren't careful. But to take it out, yeah, just put your screwdriver in around here and just give it a pry, but hold your hand over it so that it doesn't disappear. And you'll get the clip off just like that. See, that's a trick. Hold your hand over it. Typical rim drive. We'll give this one just a shot of a little bit of oil just down onto the shaft here. It's not drying up, so it's not getting seized up, so we just want to give it a bit of oil just to keep it going for a while. So put a little bit of oil on there. It'll run down and get into the bearing below. And now put the clip back on. Okay, and the clip's back on, and my put back on the spindle. This one's ready to go. Thanks for watching.